For us.
I'm Lawrence. Mr. Schick was my father.
Yeah. It's an honor for us in HD Milan here to have you here to reply our questions. We gathered a few of them from our community, so I'm gonna ask you. So, what technologies did you use when developing your dialogue system? And did you have to develop your own internal tool, or did you have to use an external software?
All right. So the question is, do we use external software for doing the dialogue, or do we have an internal tool? Larian uses a proprietary dialogue editor because Larian makes role-playing games. That's all they do. So they've been developing an internal editor with over iteration over many years. And that's what we use the latest iteration of for Baldur's Gate 3. It enables you to create interactive dialogues of fairly enormous complexity with many different nodes connecting and reconnecting, providing many permutations and lots of possibilities, up to the point where it breaks, and then you break it down into sub dialogues because it's too complicated. So you learn as you're building the dialogues just how far you can push the editor before it collapses and just lays on its ground and kicks its feet in the air and says, "No, I'm not going to do that." That we use a proprietary editor. That's to summarize.
Thank you, Lawrence. Coming on to the next question. How did the narrative and gameplay teams work together on major story beats in Baldur's Gate 3?
How did the narrative team work with the other teams? Very closely indeed. What? Up higher? Okay. Very closely indeed. As close as this microphone should be to me. The kinds of role-playing choice and consequence games that Larian makes require that every aspect of the game support the narrative and vice versa. The narrative has to support the systems and the exploration, the combat, the itemization, every other aspect. They all have to work together. And the way we do that is that Larian, in every discipline, not just narrative, but in every discipline, hires for RPG fanatics, people who really understand RPGs and have it in their blood. And so that when they get up to speed on what game we're making, everybody's making the same game. And you don't have to have really tight hierarchical control over all of the individual creators, all the devs, because all the devs are RPG nutcases, so they understand the job, they know what we're doing. And that's why we're able to make games that are so rich and have such a texture to them, because all the creators are working on the same principle.
Thank you. This is crucial to everyone doing games like Baldur's Gate 3. This one is going to be a tough one, or at least a long one. How did you balance player freedom with narrative coherence in Baldur's Gate 3? Was there a moment where a good idea had to be cut out for consistency?
So we try to have a consistent story. There's a spine to the story. We call it the core story that moves everything forward. But really, what we're building is a narrative possibility space for all of the things that the players might choose to do. Because really, when we have to try to balance between player choice and keeping the narrative solid and consistent, we pretty much go for player choice every time. We will let you break the game any way you want. It's on you. Fine, go for it. We're happy to have you do that because whenever we build a situation, the way we look at it, you come into it with a narrative setup. You know what you're trying to get out of it on the far end. But then we look at it and we think, okay, if I'm the player, what would I want to do? What if I'm really into romance? Should I be that angle to this? What if I'm just interested in brute force? How can I solve this through combat? What if I'm just a contrary jerk and want to take the absolute, unclear, obvious choice that would make things not work? Well, we try to make it work anyway. We try to make any choice that we offer you provide a consequence that makes the story go forward. And it might not be the consequence that you had in mind when you made that choice, but you're going to look at it and say, "Yeah, I see. I see how that happened. That's on me. I did that." But it moves the story forward, and it moves the story forward based on what you chose to do. So then it becomes your unique story, and that makes us happy. And that makes us happier than having you stick to the story that we wanted you to follow, because we are RPG fanatics, and we want you to choose.
Yeah, basically a D&D real life experience on video game. So last question for you, more on the industry side this time. You've been at Larian for 6 years now, which is kind of unusual for our industry at the very moment. So what made you stay that long? And was it the project Baldur's Gate 3, the studio itself, or something else?
So to be clear, I've been at Larian for 4.5 years, not 6. But 4.5 years, I mean, in this business, I've been in video game business for 45 years, and you move around a lot. Larian is my 12th studio, so things change. It's a very vicious cycle in trying to maintain yourself and maintain a studio together. So one of the reasons why I've stuck with Larian is that they do have a vision of maintaining that sort of institutional history, keeping people on board, adding more people who have the same vision and the same feel for how these games should be made, bringing them all in together, and then keeping people and building their careers so that they want to stay because they're making the kind of stuff they want to make. So we all just hope that each game is going to be successful enough that we get to make the next game, because that's what we're there for. That's why. Now, I have been at other places longer, but I haven't been happier at other studios. So I'll be at Larian until they kick me out.
That's amazing. Abbiamo ancora tempo per l'ultima domanda? Qualcuno del pubblico? We will gathering. Okay, here. One final question. Sure.
I wanted to ask a little thing about the balance of the narrative and the balance of the gameplay of the narrative, because it's based on Dungeons and Dragons, so every action has a success a consequence. About the role of the dice. Was something about related to the balance in the narrative, or vice versa?
Well, like I said, let me just set this down. Like I said, we lean in, whenever the question comes up, we lean toward what the player wants to do or would want to do in this situation, and what interesting consequence would come from that. But as much as you try, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. What we aim to do is to have the player look at a situation and say, games have taught me that I can do this here, and I can do that here, or I can do this other thing here, but no, can't do that. So that's when we look at that and say, let's give them that. And that's going to throw everything off. So then we have to figure out, okay, how does that throw everything off in an interesting way? Where's that going to go that is going to be interesting, not just for the player, but the player's got these companions with them as well. How are they going to react to that? What does that do for the relationships between the characters that you've been building up? Because that's really critically important. So really it's very much on a case by case basis. We look at everything. We're really ambitious. We try to do too much. That's why there's 8 patches to PG3. But it's really we have a solid idea of the narrative shape of the game, and within that narrative shape, within that landscape of story, we'll let you go anywhere. So that's our goal.
Thank you, Lawrence, for this question. Abbiamo ancora tempo per l'ultimissima domanda. Ok, arrivo.
Hi, I think it's safe to say nowadays the Baldur's Gate is a milestone in the game industry about how these types of games are told and played. And since you've since you've been in this industry for so long, I was wondering if you could tell us what do you think it could be the next milestone or the next evolution of this type of games or games industry in general. Thank you.
That's a fair question. What's the next thing, right? Baldur's Gate 3, let's be clear, there's many ways to make role-playing games. Baldur's Gate 3 was made the way we make role-playing games. So it's a milestone for us. We're happy about that. Now we're working on another game. And so we've got to go beyond. What's the next milestone? Well, it's more. The next milestone, so when Larian had previously made role-playing games, like they had made Divinity Original Sin 2, which is mainly an action game with lots of magic and systemic interactions. It's really crazy. It's got characters in it and it's got story, but it's mainly an isometric game. So the characters are these little guys and they're hard to see. And so for Baldur's Gate, Larian added the capacity to do cinematic characters and narrative interactions with those characters face to face, and added more depth to those characters and more nuance to the companions and the antagonists that you interact with, so that you can get more of an emotional punch out of it, because stories are about people. And so you've got to have real people in the game, so that you can have a connection with those people, so that when shit happens to them, it matters. And you feel terrible or great based upon what happens. So we got the action part and we got the cinematic narrative part, and now we got to blend them even further. We got to make them so that they don't feel like they're these separate systems, but that they interact with each other all the time, and stuff is constantly dynamically updating. And I'm not going to tell you how to do that because we're still figuring it out. But that's where we're going. So that's what we're going to try to do.